What's up guys, my name is Abdul Nafe and welcome back to a brand new course. And in this course, we're going to be learning how to make realistic automotive renders inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now in this course, we're going to be making 4 realistic scenes and we're going to be covering everything from importing the models, texturing the models, lighting the whole scene, building the whole scene, and obviously rendering at the end. Now I would recommend you to know at least the basics of Unreal Engine 5 because that's going to be very helpful. But even if you are a beginner, this course is going to be pretty easy for you. Now you do also need to know some basics of Blender or any other 3D software if you want. For me personally, I'm going to be using Blender in this course. So yeah, I guess without any further ado, let's look at the renders first and then we can get started with the course. So our first render is going to be this car right here, this Mustang in a city street with some neon lights and all that stuff. So we're going to be building this whole scene from scratch. We're going to be texturing the car. We're going to be importing the car first and then texturing it. And then we're going to be building this whole scene out. We're going to be using an HDRI to light this up. And yeah, you can see some trees we added on the sides to sort of add those reflections and all that stuff. So we're going to be covering all of that in this course. And after that, we're going to be moving on to this scene, which is basically a G-Wagon on a hill. In this, we're going to be covering the basics of adding foliage, creating hills, and using HDRIs as a background, which you can actually see in your render. So I think the scene looks pretty good as well. So yeah, we're going to be covering how to make this scene from scratch. After that, we're going to be rendering that same G-Wagon in a parking lot this time. We're going to be building this whole parking lot from scratch. We're going to be using an HDRI as a background. And you can just see it looks very realistic, the lighting and everything. So we're going to be doing all of that from scratch. And lastly, our final render is going to be this Porsche 911 GT3 on a racetrack. We're going to be building this whole racetrack from scratch. We're going to be adding the car and all that stuff. So this scene is my personal favorite. So yeah, I think after this course, you're going to have a whole bunch of car renders to add to your portfolio. And also you're going to be building your skill, which you can use for client work, for a lot of different things, right? And Unreal Engine 5 is quite high in demand right now. So if you're looking to like make some money off of this and get some clients, then that is fairly easy too. But yeah, I guess that's it for the intro. I guess we should just get started with the course. And I'm really excited to see you. And I hope you are too. Alright guys, so welcome to the course, and the first render that we're going to be making is going to be this one. This is actually a pretty straightforward render, but also it has some twists, some different things that we did. We used some we created billboards, you know, those billboards with like lights and stuff, LED billboards, and we created one of those. We added add texture on it, and then that can sort of, you know, project some light on the car and it makes it look more interesting. And it's just a car in a parking lot, and there's a building behind. We're gonna add some graffiti to it. We're gonna create the building, like all the assets by ourselves. We're gonna be using Megascan's assets, but like we're gonna be building the whole thing by ourselves. And you can see some cracks on the, what do you call it, the ground. So we're gonna be adding those as well, and we're just gonna try our best to make it look as realistic as possible. So yeah, if you like this, let's get started, and I'm pretty sure you can make something very similar to this after watching this tutorial, right? So first things first, you're going to be opening Unreal Engine. I'm going to minimize that. And what you can do is you can go to games and go to blank and then just create a new project. Make sure the quality preset is set to maximum and it's set to blueprint, target platform and desktop, and make sure to turn on ray tracing if you have an NVIDIA RTX graphic card. If you don't have one of those, then that's perfectly fine. You can just leave it off. But do note that ray tracing on is gonna give you slightly better results, slightly better shadows, slightly better reflections, just that kind of stuff, you know. But if you can't turn it on, that's perfectly fine as well. Name your project whatever you want, set the project location to whatever you want, and then create the project. Now I'm not going to do this because I already do have this project created in which I made the original scene, so I'm just going to be using that same project and creating a new level in it. But the process is the same. You guys can just go ahead and create a new project. I'm just going to be using my pre-created project. All right, so I'm just going to open that, and it is going to take a minute or two to open, especially the first time you're opening a project, like you're creating a project and then opening it. It is going to take, I think, a few minutes depending on how fast your computer is, but after that it is going to be fine. All right, so you're obviously not going to see this. You're just going to see in your viewport, you're just going to see the basic what do you call it, the default Unreal Engine level. But what you just want to do is you just want to go up to file. If you can't see file, I'm just going to set this to windowed mode, and you can see file right here. You can click file and you can click new level like that, and then you can just click empty level right here and then create it. So I'm going to set it back to full screen mode. Actually, problem with my recording, it's not a problem, it's just a thing about my screen's aspect ratio. You can't see my taskbar down there, and you also can't see the top row of icons up there. So yeah, we're just gonna have to deal with that, and I'm just gonna be setting it to windowed mode whenever I have to click any of these buttons, so it shouldn't be a problem. Let me see if you guys can see, what do you call it, my bad. If you guys can see the console command, yeah, you can't see the console command line either. So I'm just gonna set it to windowed mode. So don't worry about that. Anyway, so this is our brand new level. You can just move around, do whatever. So first things first, we're gonna be going up to window again, window right here. Click this, go to environment light mixer, click this, and then you can just click all these buttons one by one. So create skylight, create atmospheric light, create sky atmosphere, volumetric clouds, and then hide fog. And then just cross it out and then set it back to full screen mode. And you can see that we have a very basic lighting setup. Now, obviously, this is not the setup that we're going to be using. We're going to be using an HDRI because that's just going to make your render look better. But yeah, so we're just going to be, what do you call it? We're just going to be starting with this and we're going to change things later on. So next, what I want to do is I want to go up to selection mode and just click landscape mode. And we can just create a landscape, just a basic floor, a basic ground that we have. We need to have a basic ground to, work on it and let's place our car and just start building our scene out, stuff like that. So that's done. And usually what I'd like to do after this is I just like to go to the internet and get a model for our car. In this case, it's going to be a Mustang. So I'm just going to go to the internet. So just go to Google Chrome and you can just search for a Mustang. Mustang 3D model. And I usually prefer Sketchfab, this website right here, to download 3D models. But you can get them from free 3D models as well, free3d.com as well. You can get it from TurboSquid as well. I haven't used TurboSquid in quite some time. CG Trader is also a good one. Blender Kit is also nice. I haven't used the other websites here, so yeah, I can't really say anything about them. But Sketchfab is a very trusted website, which I generally like to download stuff from. And so what I usually like to do is I don't even like search on the internet. I just go to sketchfab.com like that. And then I go to search and then search for like Mustang or whatever. And after you do this, make sure you click downloadable. So it's just going to show you the models which are actually, which you can actually download. And you can see that we have a lot of different cars. Now the models which have this download icon right here, those you can download for free. Some models, however, let me look for an example. Yeah, for example, this one, which has this $sign right here, these are going to be paid. So you're going to have to pay for them. So I'm just going to select the free model because we don't really need to, we don't really need a paid one. I'm trying to remember which car I downloaded because I'm trying to keep it consistent. Let me see. So it was it this one? No, it doesn't have the logo. Actually, yeah, I'll just cut the video right here and I'll see you guys when I've found what do you call it, the model. All right, so the model which I'm going to use is going to be this one, 2017 Mustang GT, Ford Mustang GT. And if I open it, you're going to see that it's a pretty good model. Now when downloading models, one thing that I need you to keep in mind is the number of triangles that it has, or the number of vertices that it has. Triangles is basically something which I use personally, but yeah. So for example, if I go to this model, for example, the 2015 Ford Mustang GT, this model has 178,000 triangles, which is pretty low, right? If you have a slower computer, if you wanna if you want to make like a game or something out of it, or if you want to make an animation and you want it to like run pretty fast, and like your computer is slow as well, so then I would recommend you to use something like this. But if you use something which has like a lot of triangles, chances are that the quality of the model is going to be much higher, but at the same time it's going to take more time to render. It's going to be more intensive on your computer as well, right? So that's just something that I need to keep in mind now, because our goal here is just to like create a still render, an image out of this whole scene. So that's why we don't really care as much about the triangles, but for animations, for games, you do need to keep that in mind. So I'm just going to download this. So once you have a model selected, you can just click download 3D model. And I usually like to go with GITF format. Even though Blender format is available and I usually like to open my stuff in Blender, I usually like to go with either GITF or FBX format. So those are just like more reliable formats, and I just personally prefer those. So I'm just going to download this. And yeah, you are going to need to use one 3D software other than, what do you call it, Unreal Engine, because I usually like to just open my model in that software. For me, that's Blender, and just make sure that the normals and everything is fine, and just like all the textures and everything will work fine before exporting it for Unreal Engine. So I just like to check my model before importing it. Okay, so I'm just going to open this. select everything, right click, copy, go to desktop, and I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this Mustang course. Okay. And just paste it right here. All right, that's perfect. Now what we can do is we can just go ahead and open Blender. So you can also use any other 3D software, by the way, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to follow along this tutorial like exactly, then you are going to need Blender. And I am assuming that you know the basics of Blender as well, because I'm not going to be like going over the very basics, you know. But it is pretty simple. So you just go up to File. Let me make sure that you can see File. Yeah, you can. Okay, go up to File, go to Import, GITF, or if you downloaded FBX, you can click FBX. But I'm just going to do GITF and go to Desktop, Mustang course, and scene.gitf, this one right here, import GITF 2.0. It's going to take a minute, but once it does, perfect, you can see that our model looks pretty good and it's pretty detailed and very good. Perfect. So I'm trying to look for any errors or any problems in the geometry. I usually like to like just spectate my model and just see how it looks before, you know, importing it in Unreal Engine. So that looks fine. The only thing that's left is to go up here, click this this down arrow right here, click face orientation, and now you can see all the normals of this model. So just make sure that everything right here is blue. If anything in this is red, then that's a problem. And exactly what do you do if it's red, I'm going to show you in just a bit. So for example, I want you to just ignore what I'm doing right now, because I'm just going to mess it up on purpose so I can show you how to fix it. So for example, if it was something like this, right? If it was the whole car was blue, but just one part of the car was red, what you can do is you can select that object, press tab to go into edit mode. Now in this case, everything is selected by default, but for example, if it wasn't, press A to select everything. Okay. Go up to mesh right here, go to normals, and then just click flip. So when you do that, if you tab out of edit mode, if you press tab again to go out of edit mode, you're going to see that it's going to be fixed. Perfect. So just make sure everything is blue, because normals don't really matter as much in Blender, but in Unreal Engine they do matter quite a lot. You can't even see the object if the normal is flipped. So yeah. Apart from that, I think the model is pretty much good to go. So once you're done with this, what you can do is you can just go to File, Export, and then as FBX, because I want to sort of have this file, I have this model as FBX before I open it into Unreal Engine, because that's what works in Unreal Engine. So I'm just going to name it Mustang.fbx, export FBX. Perfect. Now we can go back to Unreal Engine and we can go down to our content browser, right click the content folder, click new folder, and I'm just going to call this Mustang course. Okay. And in here, what we can do is we can just go back to our desktop and basically the folder where we exported the FBX, and we can just drag that in like this into the content browser. And now it's going to give you some import options. Just set everything to default, click import all, and it is going to take a minute depending on how fast your computer is, and how big the model is as well, but it should be done very soon. All right, so once the car has been imported, you're going to see that there's going to be a bunch of stuff in our content browser. You can just select the first object, the first static mesh, ignore all the materials for now. Click the first static mesh, go to the last static mesh, and then shift click that. And then what you can do is everything's going to be selected, and you can just select any object and drag it on your scene like that. And your whole car is going to be on your scene. Perfect. Now you can see that we have a bunch of different objects for our car, so it's good to like keep your scene organized. So with all of them selected, I'm not going to click anywhere, but I'm going to click right here to put all the stuff in a new folder, and then I can triple click this folder. So 1, 2, 3, triple click it, and I can just call it whatever I want, Mustang, and enter. Perfect. So now you're going to see that all of our Mustang objects are going to be in a folder called Mustang. So it's just a good practice to sort of keep your scene organized. And another thing which is very important is to save your project. So or like save your level. So just click Control S, and it's going to say save level as. You can save it as whatever. I'm just going to save it as Mustang course, and press save all as well, because this is the save. This is going to save your content or like your assets and all that. So just do that, and perfect. So everything has been perfectly imported inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now it's our time, and now it's time to sort of just work on the textures of the car, just make the car look good, and then we can sort of build our scene and we can create this whole environment and just make it look realistic. Perfect. So for the textures, what I like to use is I like to use this texture pack called Automotive Materials. It's made by Epic Games themselves. And so to download that, what you can do is you can just go to your Epic Games launcher, press enter, and you can go to Unreal Engine, Marketplace, and if I just wait for it to load, you can search here in search products. You can do Automotive Materials. Make sure to spell it right. And it's gonna come up right here, Automotive Materials, and you can see that it has a lot of different materials. You can use these for it has a bunch of different materials. You can use these for cars. I even use them for like some interior design work if I'm doing that. So it has like a lot of different materials which are just perfect for a lot of different situations. So this is a must-have pack if you are serious on Unreal. But just add to project and make sure to turn on show all projects, because it's not going to show you some projects by default. So just select your project, whichever you want, select version, and then just make sure to select the latest version, the most latest version that you have in here, so 5.1, and then click add to project. Now I'm not going to do that because I already do have it added, so I'm just going to do don't add. And yeah, the download size is around like 2 to 3 gigabytes, so you're going to have to wait for a bit to for it to download. But once it's done, you're going to see, if I go to my content browser, you're going to see this folder called Automotive Materials. So once the download has been completed, this folder is just going to appear in your project. All right, so you can open this, you can go into materials, and you have two main categories. So you have exterior and interior. So we're going to start with the exterior. And first thing I want to do is I want to go to car paint, and you can see that we have a lot of different materials here. And this whole part is as simple as just selecting the material that you want and dragging and dropping, literally that. So yeah, so for example, if I like this red paint right here, I'm gonna drag it on like that. The body of this car is separated into two objects. So one object is that, and the other object is this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to apply the material to both of them. So one is already applied, and the second one right here. So you can't really tell the difference, but it is divided into two objects for some reason. But yeah, so the car paint looks pretty decent, and let's move on to the next thing, which I usually like to do glass. So just select glass and apply glass clear to your windscreen, to your lights, and so you can see the inside of the car, which is obviously not, I mean, there's no interior and stuff like that. But so we're gonna come back to that in just a bit. But yeah, so for the back, I want there to be red lights here. Red glass here, red tinted glass. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to lights. You have this transparent cover material which is tinted red, so I'm just gonna apply this to that. Okay, and I think we're done with glass pretty much. So next up, I'm gonna just select a metal material, dark metal material, and just apply it to like the grills and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna go to metal, and maybe something like this, metal frosted, or maybe something like this, metal painted. Apply this here, see how it looks. Apply it to this area. Now that's too bright, or is it fine? I think it's a little too bright, so I'm just gonna apply this one. No, that's too dark. I want something which is more, maybe apply this. No, that's too light. So now this whole part is basically just trial and error. I think that looks good. You can just try out different things and just see what looks good and what doesn't. And eventually you are going to find materials that you like. So you can just apply those. This part is honestly probably like one of my favorite parts. But sometimes it does get a little repetitive because I mean, it's the same process for literally every car you import. So yeah, it does get a little repetitive sometimes, but for the most part, it's pretty fun. Because then you can like see your car sort of like come to life and just look realistic as you apply materials. And also one quick tip for you guys, if you don't know what material to apply, you can go back to your model, and here you can see that it's gonna this one obviously has materials, right? So you can just look at different materials and just see what you were supposed to add. So for example, here we're supposed to add a metal. The Mustang logo, we're supposed to add a shiny reflective metal, so I'm just gonna do that. So maybe something like this, chrome. Yeah, that looks nice. Oops, my bad. And let's do the tires next. the wheels. So for the wheels, I'm gonna apply like something like this. Or is that too bright? I think that is too bright. I want something to be a little darker. So one other thing that you can do is you can also like sort of modify the materials. So for example, if I want to modify this, what I can do is I can just double click it, and then I can change the tint of this. I can make it darker or whatever. I can do all these things. But also, if you want to keep this material and like sort of have another material with some changes applied, so what you can do for that, that's pretty simple as well. You can right click the material, create material instance, and then just call it whatever you want. So I'm just going to do I'm going to call it the same name, zinc sprangles, whatever, spangles. And then I'm going to call this darker. Okay. So just apply this material to the tire, both of the tire objects, and then open this, and you can sort of change the attributes of this material. So you can have the original material as well, and just a darker version of that material as well. And I think that looks pretty fire. Something like that. I want it to be something like that. And also I want it to be a little more reflective. It's a little too matte finish. I want it to be a little more glossy. So I'm just gonna turn on roughness max and just reduce it a little bit. Something like that. And the more you reduce it, obviously the shinier it is gonna become. I think it's a little too shiny, so maybe increase it back to like 0.6. That should be fine. Cross it out and apply the same material to all the wheels. Perfect. And okay, these are already applied. Cool. So that's that. Let's even try to apply this to this area. I think that looks better, honestly, because it's like less reflective and it looks more realistic, in my opinion. But at the same time, I don't want you guys to sort of limit your options and like your creativity with what I'm doing. You guys are free to like just experiment with your own materials and like just do whatever you want. There's no like sort of restrictions. Let me apply it here as well. Cool. So we're looking pretty decent. Let me see what else we need to apply. So the tire, yeah, for the tires, I'm gonna do, for the calipers, I'm gonna apply the same car paint material to it. Calipers, there you go. Apply to this as well. And the other sides, they're already applied. Cool. So that's that. And for the brake disc, I'm gonna apply the brushed metal, this brushed metal material, like there. And that looks pretty good. It's applied and applied. Good. So that works. And now I think we should move on to the lights. Now the lights are a little tricky to make them, it's a little tricky to make them look realistic. So just pay a little attention to this. But hopefully our lights are going to look pretty good. All right, so I'm just going to go back to Sketchfab. And as you can see, so this part, these are basically LEDs, and this part is LED as well. And so the inside part, basically the sort of this part right here of sort of like the body of the light, or like the background of the light, that is like a dark reflective metal. And this part is like a completely reflective I think it's a glass or something like that, or plastic. And there's some orange stuff inside it as well, like an orange light. So let's go ahead and add that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the glass, or what you can do is you can just select the glass and hide it like that. So we can like see inside the glass. And so inside I'm going to apply maybe something like that, frosted metal. That's too, what do you call it? It's not reflective at all. So maybe something like this. I don't think that's reflective either. Maybe something like this. Again, this whole process is just trial and error. No, that's too reflective. Something like that. Or chrome. That actually might work. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. Cool. So let's hide the glass again, and let's go to lights, lamp white, and just apply this to this part and this part as well, so you can just see the lights basically. And let's go back to Sketchfab. And so as you can see, this part is a more reflective sort of metal or plastic, whatever. So we're just going to be adding a reflective material here. So let's go to metal again, and something like this. That could work. Maybe something like this, or maybe just mirror straight up. No, that's too dark. I think this looks the best. And also, if your reflections aren't looking as good, what you can do two things basically. The first thing would be to go into settings, go into engine scalability settings, and make sure to set them to cinematic. So this is the difference between epic. So this is epic, and oops, my bad. Do like this. And if I go to settings and set it to cinematic, you can see that there's a slight bit of a difference. The major difference would be in the reflections on your windscreen and on your glass parts, but yeah, you can do that. Another thing which is gonna make more of a difference, that is you can click these three lines right here, go down to screen percentage and custom override and set this to something like 120. Now this is going to be very resource intensive, and as you can see, the difference is like day and night, but also our FPS has dropped quite a bit. So it's just a good way to like preview your high quality renders just inside your viewport. Obviously you don't need this all the time when you're working, but when you're working with like reflections and all that stuff, you do need a little bit of, you know, high quality previews. So okay, so this part is also going to be glass, so let's go back and glass and apply this glass right here. But then if I select this and hide it, you're gonna see there's a light inside this as well. So this light, I want it to be, let's see if you make it red. I don't want it to be red, I want it to be, I think red should be fine actually. Add the cover and add the other cover as well. So yeah, I think that our lights are looking pretty decent. The only problem that I'm noticing is that the inside part, the metal, this part right here, is a little too reflective. So I'm just gonna hide the glass again, select this, go down to your material, chrome material. So just open this and then you can increase the roughness max a little bit, something like that. And let's actually turn on the glass and then make tweaks so we can like see the actual final result alongside it. And something like that. I also want to make it a little darker, something like that. And yeah, I think our lights are looking pretty good. Now this is, do note that this is in ray tracing. The final render is going to be in path tracing. So if I just switch to path tracing right here, you can see that it looks a lot better in path tracing, right? So just know that it is going to look better, hopefully, in the final result. And also the glass, you can also change the glass out for some more, some lighter material, some lighter glass tint, because this one's pretty dark. Or you can just go to your lights material and you're going to see that you have some light covers as well. These are just going to make it look more like, I think, brighter. So I think something like this should be nice. I think that looks pretty decent. The inside part needs to be a little darker though. I'm just going to go inside, select this, go down to the chrome, make it darker. Something like that. I think that should be fine. We can also make some tweaks to the material itself. So the glass color, I want to make it a little darker. Something like that. And I think that should be good. That should look pretty decent. Nice. Okay, moving on to this stuff, these bottom lights right here. So this is supposed to be, it's supposed to be like glass and inside it's a reflector kind of thing. So now I don't really know what these parts are actually called, so don't like judge me on that. I don't really know much about cars, to be honest, but yeah. Select this, hide it, and inside part is so there's a metal already applied because it's the same texture that we applied to the top part, so that's already applied. So we're good to go with this part. This bottom light though, let's see. Okay, so this is a glass as well. Apply glass to this, like that. And the inside part is white, so we don't want it to be white. We want it to be, go to metal and apply chrome material to this and put the light cover on. All right, that looks pretty decent. Let's go back to lid mode for now. And yeah, I think our whole thing is looking pretty decent. The whole car is looking pretty good. Let's go to the back and work on the backlights now. So the backlights, I think the material is already going to be applied. So if I just select the light cover, take it off, and you can see that it is already applied. But we can apply a chrome material to this. That's too bright, maybe something like that. And unhide this. So I think that is going to look better. Yep. So the back of our car is also looking good. And I think we're pretty much just almost done with our car. We just need some minor details. We just need to add some minor details. For example, like this mirror. So just apply the mirror texture to that. And this part, I'm just going to apply like a shiny material to this. And do like one round of the car just to make sure everything is applied. Oh yeah, the tire material is not applied. So for the tire, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to rubber. And you can just select any one of these. So I'm just going to select this. Or maybe this. Yeah, I think this one looks nice. Because it's more rough and like it's grungy a little bit. And you can also open the tire material. And you can sort of change the UV tiling and all that stuff. To sort of control the size of the material. So if I set it to like 1 by 1. You can see that the material is just going to become bigger. Like that. And you can add dust, you can add fingerprints if you want. So all that stuff is there. And actually I am going to add both of those things because it makes it look more realistic. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the tint, make it a little darker. And yeah, I think we should be good with the tires. So make sure that the same material is applied to all the tires. Cool. So our car is basically done. You can add a license plate as well if you want. So let me just show you how to do that. All right, so to make the license plate, we're just going to go to the internet again. And I'm not going to close this because we might need some more references. I'm just going to search for license plate creator. My bad. It's just, I hate this feature. I don't know. I don't really understand it. License plate creator, just Google search. Yeah. License plate creator. And then what you can do is you can basically just use the Rockstar Games one, or you can use any of these other websites. So let me just try this new website. Yeah, so you can basically use any one of these, create any one of these. Now, because my license plate is actually very long, like this, for example, you can see that these dimensions are not going to work on it. So either you have two options, basically. Either you can just scale it up like that, something like that, and like, just place it back down there like this. Yeah, so that's one of the options that you have. So for the back as well, you can see that it is not going to look the best in the back. So it's either that, or what you can do is, like, if I undo this, we can use one of the European license plate, because European license plates are generally longer. So yeah, it's zoomed in for some reason. Okay, so this website, for example, right here, custom European plates. You can just enter your text. So I'm just gonna do Nafe 3D, which, by the way, is my Instagram account. So if you want to follow me there, I'll post all my artwork there. So once you do that, you're gonna see that it's just gonna give you a number plate, and you can just change the background color, whatever. And yeah, you can select different designs as well if you want, but I think I'm just gonna go with this one. So then I'm just gonna zoom in, something like that. And what we can do is we can just take a we can open our snipping tool, whatever, and we can just sort of take a picture of this. Or like, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start somewhere. I want to start inside, actually. Yeah, start inside the borders, like not outside it, something like that. So now we have a license plate. You can right click this, copy it, or just save it as. I'm just gonna do that. Yeah, save it as. Go to desktop, Mustang course, and I'm just gonna save it here. License plate. Cool. Then we can go back to Unreal Engine, go back to our Mustang course folder, and then we can just drag it in here. So desktop, Mustang course, and just drag in your license plate right here. Cool. So after you do this, you can just simply apply it like that, and it is flipped for now. So in order to flip it, what we can do is we can either use the material editor to like do everything ourselves, or we can just use a shortcut, which is actually pretty simple. We can use a Megascans preset material, and we can sort of use that to basically get controls for the rotation and everything just by default without doing anything. So it might sound a little confusing right now, but it's much simpler than the alternative. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go to this MS presets folder, Now, in order to get this folder, you can just go to add Quixel content. And just in from Megascans, you can import any asset, like any asset, it doesn't really matter. And it's just gonna sort of create that folder for you. For example, if you want to do this, whatever, it doesn't matter. Select low quality and just download it and add it to your scene, right? It's not gonna, obviously don't add it to your scene actually, but like add it to your content browser. So once you do that, you're just gonna get this folder called MS presets, okay? If you open this folder, if you expand it, so in here, you're going to go down to this folder called m_ms_surface_material. Now, this is basically the default surface material, and it comes with a lot of settings. If I just open the material, you're going to see that it comes with all the settings that you need to sort of control a material, right? The roughness, the albedo, the UV and all that stuff. We're mainly concerned about the UVs and also the rotation of the UVs, basically. So what we're going to do is that we're going to right click this material, and we're going to create a material instance. So basically what this is that this is basically just going to give you all the controls that you need, and it's just going to give you in a format which is easy to change. You don't understand what that means? It's perfectly fine. I'm going to explain in just a bit. So I'm just going to call this license _plate_ Mustang. Cool. So what we can do is we can just now move this, just drag it and move it into your folder of your car, Mustang core. So I'm just going to move it in there. And then we can just apply it to the license plate like that. And then we can open the material. And now you're going to see you have all the settings that you would get in a pre-made material. Basically, you can change the albedo texture. So that's what we want to do. We want to apply the texture to this. We can add normal maps. We can add a lot of different stuff to this, right? We can also change all this stuff as well in a very easy to sort of use format, right? Right now, you're going to see that it's been rotated incorrectly. So I'm just going to click rotation angle, set it to 0.25. No, 0.5, because 0.25 is usually 90 degrees. 0.5 would be 180. So you can see it's rotated. So now basically you can see that it's still flipped. So sometimes this happens. It's perfectly fine. There's a very easy fix to this. What we can do is we can go back to, where is it? Yeah, I think it's here. Okay, so open this. And we're just going to use this default Windows photo editor to sort of just flip this image basically in the the y-axis. So I'm just going to click this edit button right here. Now, obviously, if you don't have Windows 11, if you don't have this editor specifically, you can just go on the internet and be like image flipper, whatever, image flipper. And you can just use any one of these tools and you can just use those. But we can simply just click this button right here to flip the image. And now if I save it, if I just save it to that same image. And so now what I can do is I can just drag, my bad. I can just select this image, drag it in again like this. And then you're going to see that it's basically just going to replace that same image, and you can see that it's been flipped. Perfect. Now there's one problem right here, which is that if I zoom in on this side, you're going to see that there's some textures being applied to areas which we don't want it to apply to. So there's a simple fix for that as well. You can just change the tiling and the offset and all that stuff. So you can just modify it a little bit, reduce the tiling X a little bit, just make some very, very minor adjustments. Offset. I think this is fine. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. So the number plate is fine. And let's see the back. Back looks good as well. Perfect. So yeah, our license plate is good to go. Just save all. This is very important. And press Ctrl S as well to save the level and like the whole project. Cool. So now I think our car is pretty much good to go. Now we can start working on this whole scene and create the whole environment.